Captain Riven sat alone in the cockpit of his small explorer ship, staring at the blackness of deep space. He had been traveling for months, scanning dead worlds, broken satellites, and ghost signals left behind by ancient races humanity had fallen long ago, and Riven was one of the last survivors still searching for signs of old Earth technology. Hope was fading, until now suddenly his console beeped. A signal had appeared on his screen, old, broken, but very real. He leaned forward. Checking the frequency, his eyes widened. "This can't be right," he whispered. The signal was in Terran Standard, the ancient human language, but this version was thousands of years old. No one had spoken it in centuries, not even in the ruins of Earth. And yet, someone or something was sending it now. He ran a full scan. The signal came from a dark, uncharted planet on the edge of the Xeran expanse, a world covered in clouds, with no known cities, ships, or satellites. Official records marked it as Dead Zone, do not approach. But Riven didn't care. He set course immediately as his ship entered the planet's orbit. Turbulence hit hard, thick clouds blocked sunlight, and strange energy fields made his controls flicker. Still, he pushed through, trusting his old ship and his instincts. Below the clouds, a massive jungle stretched across the surface. But right in the middle, hidden under vines and stone, was a structure, a temple, shaped like a giant human hand reaching to the sky. "This place shouldn't exist," he said. Gripping the controls tighter, he landed carefully near the base of the temple. The air outside was breathable but heavy with strange smells. Green fog drifted between ancient stone pillars. Each stone had marking symbols that looked almost human, but twisted, changed by time and alien hands. Riven walked slowly, flashlight in one hand, scanner in the other. As he approached the temple entrance, the signal grew stronger. It wasn't just a signal anymore. It was a voice, speaking old Terran words on a loop. "Return. The key must awaken. Return." Suddenly, movement from the shadows. Figures appeared, tall, cloaked beings with glowing blue eyes and weapons pointed at him. He froze. One of them, smaller and faster, rushed forward and pulled his arm behind his back. They spoke in a strange tongue, musical and sharp. Riven couldn't understand until he tried something no one had used in ages. He spoke in ancient Terran Standard. "I come in peace," he said calmly. "I followed your signal." The soldiers stopped moving. One of them gasped, the smaller one barely taller than Riven's shoulder. She stepped closer, pulling down her hood, revealing a young alien girl with silver skin and violet eyes. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. You speak the dead language of our ancestors?" Silence followed. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure what to do. To them, this language was forbidden, holy, and feared. To hear it now, from a living creature, was like seeing a ghost speak. Riven looked at the girl, confused but calm. "Yes, I speak it," he said. "I'm human." The girl stepped back in shock, whispering in her language to the others. They surrounded him again, this time not with weapons, but with fear and curiosity. One of them placed a glowing collar around his neck, and everything went black. When Riven woke up, he was inside a chamber made of smooth, glowing stone. Strange writing covered the walls, some of it in Terran Standard. The girl was there again. Sitting across from him, watching quietly, she spoke softly. "If you are who you say you are, then you are a danger to all of us." Riven frowned. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," he replied. "I just followed the signal." The girl hesitated. "Only the temple speaks that language now. No one alive dares to use it. Our ancestors warned us. If the language returns, so will the war." Riven leaned forward. "Then maybe your ancestors were human," he said. "And maybe the truth has been hidden for too long." She stared at him, torn between fear and wonder. Then she whispered a single word in Terran Standard. "Help." Riven sat quietly in the glowing stone chamber. The walls shimmered with soft blue light, and ancient symbols danced slowly in the air. His hands were no longer tied. but a faint energy field kept him from moving too far. Across from him sat the alien girl again, Zura. Her violet eyes studied him like he was a ghost outside the chamber. Alien guards stood still, their armor humming softly. They hadn't hurt him, but they were afraid. Not of Riven himself, but of the words he spoke. Zura finally broke the silence. "You need to understand something," she said, her voice low. "This world, Nerith, it is sacred, forbidden to outsiders." Riven tilted his head. "Then why was your signal calling me?" he asked. Zura frowned. "It wasn't ours. The temple sent it." "By itself? That didn't make sense." Riven leaned forward, trying to read her face. "What do you mean the temple sent it?" Zura stood up and began pacing. "Our ancestors built the temple thousands of years ago," she said. "They spoke the same language you speak." "Terran Standard," Riven added. She nodded slowly. "Yes, but here, we call it the tongue of the fallen. It is said that those who speak it awaken destruction. We are taught never to learn it." Riven's heart beat faster. Could it be possible? Had humans once visited or ruled this planet? Was this lost world part of an ancient Terran empire? Zura continued. "Only the High Council knows the full history, and they've buried it. When you spoke the language, the guards panicked. But I remembered stories my grandmother told me. She said one day, a stranger would come from the stars, speaking the dead tongue. She said he would bring truth and danger." Before Riven could answer, the chamber door slid open with a soft hiss. Two older aliens in fine robes entered council elders. They stared at Riven like he was a beast in a cage. One of them stepped forward and spoke in their native tongue, harsh and cold. Zura translated. "He says you must be judged. He says the last time someone spoke your language, cities burned." Riven stayed calm. "I don't want war," he said. "I want answers," the elders whispered among themselves, then gave a nod. Zura turned to Riven with a sad look. "They will allow you to see the temple, but only under guard. They hope it will convince you to leave." Later that day, Riven was escorted through the glowing city built around the ancient temple. Alien towers rose like curved bones into the foggy sky. Everything felt alive. Buildings pulsed softly. Streets curved in strange patterns. It was beautiful. But watching him, everywhere, were silent eyes filled with fear. At the temple's base, they reached a wide door covered in carved images. Some showed strange creatures, some showed battles, but one image made Riven stop. A human figure, tall and proud, with stars around his head. Beneath it was written in perfect Terran, "We gave fire to the sky, then burned ourselves away." Zura noticed his stare. "We don't know what it means," she whispered. "No one can read it." Riven touched the writing, his fingers shaking. "It's a warning," he said. "Humans once had great power, but we lost control." They entered the temple, and everything changed. Inside was quiet, too quiet. No wind, no echo, no sound at all. The walls were smooth and warm, and they pulsed like a heartbeat. As they walked deeper, lights lit up ahead of them, guiding their path. At the center of the temple stood a strange object, half machine, half stone. It looked like a throne, or maybe a command seat. Riven stepped closer, and the object began to glow. Zura backed away, frightened. "The temple responds to you," she said. "It's choosing you." Suddenly, a deep, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, not from speakers, but from the air itself. Language recognized. Human DNA detected. Activation in progress. The alien guards aimed their weapons, shouting in panic. Zura stood between them and Riven, her arms wide. She yelled, "He's not a threat." But it was too late. The throne machine glowed brighter, and a hidden doorway opened behind it, revealing stairs that led downward into darkness. The voice spoke again. "Access to the vault granted. Only the speaker may enter." Riven looked at Zura, who stared at him with both fear and awe. "I have to go," he said. She hesitated, then nodded. "If you go down there, you may never come back." Riven smiled faintly. Then I'll find the truth before it finds me. He stepped through the doorway and vanished into the dark below. Zura watched him go, not knowing that their world was about to change forever. The air grew colder as Riven descended the narrow stairs. Each step echoed like a whisper through stone. The walls glowed faintly with symbols, Terran standard, ancient and faded. His flashlight flickered, but the writing seemed to light up. When he passed, it was like the temple itself was watching. He reached the bottom and found a large circular chamber. In the center stood a glowing pedestal, humming with strange energy. Around it, broken machines and old wires twisted into the floor. Dust covered everything, but the room felt untouched, like time had stopped here. Riven slowly approached the pedestal. The moment his hand touched the surface, it responded. The symbols around the room lit up, forming a spinning ring of data in the air. Then, a voice spoke clear, robotic but filled with age. Welcome. Terran subject. Identity not found. Searching records, error. You are unknown. Riven took a deep breath. I'm Captain Riven Hale, born on Earth. I followed your signal. The voice paused, then replied, Earth. Confirmed origin of language system. Signal was automatic. Triggered by Terran genetics entering orbit, so the temple had recognized his human DNA the moment he arrived. But why now, and why here? Who built this place? He asked. The answer came slowly. This facility was constructed by the Orion Terran Command. Cycle 431 Beta. Purpose: secure knowledge of human expansion and containment of Class Omega events. Riven frowned. Class Omega? He asked. End of cycle threats to civilization, the voice replied. War. Collapse. Rebellion. He looked around, trying to imagine what kind of war could have led to this. The pedestal's ring of light shifted, and a small projection appeared, a hologram. It showed a galaxy map with human colonies spreading like stars in every direction. Then, one by one, they blinked out. Humanity reached too far. Too fast, the voice explained. Asterisk asterisk. Allied species feared human control. Began revolts. Terran leadership ordered knowledge hidden to prevent future chaos. Riven felt a chill in his chest. Is that what this is? A hidden archive? No, the voice replied. Asterisk asterisk. This is a warning. Suddenly, another hologram appeared, of a man in uniform, wearing the Terran High Command emblem. He looked tired, but strong. His voice echoed through the chamber. If you're seeing this, it means the stars are quiet again. Our empire is gone, and only fragments remain. You are the last, or among the last. And you must choose. Awaken the vault, and carry the truth forward. Or leave it buried, and let the galaxy forget. The image faded, and the pedestal began to pulse softly. A slot opened at its base, revealing a glowing crystal-coated data locked away for millennia. Riven picked it up gently. The room darkened, waiting for his next move. Then he heard footsteps behind him. Zura stood in the doorway, panting from the climb. Her eyes widened when she saw the holograms. You weren't lying, she said quietly. This is real, Riven nodded. It's all true. Humans were here before. Maybe long before your people were even born. Zura walked in slowly, touching the wall as if afraid it might vanish. She looked up at the faded carvings, reading them out loud, one word at a time. She spoke in the Terran language carefully, but clearly. Knowledge must not die. Riven turned to her, surprised. You can read it? Zura gave a sad smile. My grandmother taught me. In secret. She said I'd need it one day to understand who we are. Riven showed her the crystal. This has the truth inside. About the old wars, the rise and fall of humanity. We can show your counsel. Prove I'm not the enemy. Zura's smile faded. You don't understand, she said. They already know. Riven's heart dropped. What do you mean? Zura looked away. The High Council has hidden this for centuries, she said. They fear what? will happen if the people learn the truth. Because the last time someone used this knowledge, it nearly destroyed everything. Before Riven could speak, a rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered. Zura's eyes widened. "They found us," she whispered. "The guards. They followed me," a loud voice echoed from above. "Step away from the vault and surrender the artifact." Riven looked at the glowing crystal, then at Zura. "We can't let them take this," he said. Zura nodded. "There's another way out," she whispered. "Through the lower tunnels. It's risky, but it might lead us to the surface." Together, they ran toward the dark passage behind the pedestal. Riven held the crystal tight, knowing what it meant. This wasn't just history, it was a spark. A fire that could reignite humanity's place in the stars behind them. The ancient voice of the vault spoke one final time. "Truth has awakened. Destiny awaits." The stone walls around Riven and Zura trembled as warning sirens echoed through the temple above. Lights flashed red in the cracks of the ancient stone. The vault door was closing behind them, sealing the past inside, but Riven had the key now, the glowing crystal tight in his grip. Zura led the way through a narrow tunnel, the air thick with dust and age. "This way," she whispered. These tunnels were used by the first ones, before the council sealed them. Riven kept glancing back, listening for footsteps. He knew it was only a matter of time before the guards caught up, but deeper they went, past broken statues and collapsed halls. Carvings lined the walls, images of humans and aliens standing side by side, not in war, but in peace. "What is this place?" Riven asked, his voice echoing. Zura stopped by a cracked wall and pointed. "This was once a great city," she said softly. "Built when humans and my ancestors lived together. But when your people disappeared, the council erased it all." She brushed her hand across a symbol of a man with a glowing star in his hand. "Some called humans gods," she said. "Others called them monsters." Riven looked at the image and felt a strange pull. Not pride, not fear, but responsibility. He wasn't just carrying human history, now he was carrying a second chance. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed behind them, footsteps. Armored, fast. "They're here," Riven whispered. Zura grabbed his hand and pulled him down a side tunnel. "We're close," she said. "There's an old transport hub beneath the city." The tunnel curved downward into a large chamber filled with machines half swallowed by roots and dust. Huge metal pillars rose to the ceiling, some broken, and glowing weakly. In the center sat a round platform with a dead console. "This was a transit ring," Zura explained. "It used to send travelers across the city instantly." Riven examined the console. Old Terran text glowed faintly, just enough to make out the words. "Standby mode. Energy core disconnected." He pulled the crystal from his pack and held it close. Maybe it could do more than store history. Maybe it was a power source too. He placed it into a socket near the base. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the floor shook, and lights flared across the console. A soft hum filled the chamber. Rising like a sleeping beast awakening, the transport ring powered up, pulsing with energy. Zura stared in disbelief. "It's working," she said. "No one's seen it do this in hundreds of years." But there was no time to celebrate. The guards poured into the chamber, weapons drawn, voices shouting in their language. Zura stepped forward to shield Riven. "Wait!" she cried. "He is not the enemy." One of the elders entered, his eyes full of rage. "You have broken sacred law," he snarled. "You've awakened the forbidden machines." Riven didn't move. "I didn't start this," he said, holding up the crystal. "This world called to me. It wants to be remembered." The elder raised his hand to strike, but before he could act, the console flashed. A voice filled the chamber loud, commanding, "Human emergency evacuation detected. Coordinates locked. Activating jump." The guards backed away as lights swirled around the platform. Riven grabbed Zura's hand. "Come with me," he said. She hesitated only a second before nodding. Together, they stepped onto the ring. There was a blinding flash then. Silence. Moments later, they landed hard in another chamber, darker and colder. This room was deep underground, far from the city above. The walls were metallic, not stone, with blinking lights and smooth panels. It felt different, cleaner, older. More human. This isn't part of your city, Riven said. Looking around, Zura shook her head. No. This is something else. At the far end of the room stood a large door with a human handprint scanner. Above it, glowing words read, Terran Command Archive, Level 0, access only. Riven placed his hand on the scanner. It scanned for a moment, then beeped. Access granted. Welcome, Terran. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a long hallway filled with cryopods and blinking monitors. Each pod held a figure sleeping, silent. Human, Zura gasped. They're still alive? She whispered. Riven nodded slowly. This is a hidden colony. A backup of our species, sleeping through time. They walked between the pods, reading names, dates, and ranks. Some were scientists, others soldiers, some just civilians. And all of them forgotten by the galaxy. At the end of the hall stood another pedestal. Similar to the one in the vault, Riven inserted the crystal, and the same voice returned. Terran Archive rebooting. Prepare for legacy restoration. Zura turned to Riven, eyes wide, voice trembling. You're not just a visitor, she said. You're the key to bringing your people back. Riven looked down at the sleeping humans, then at her. No, he said softly. We bring them back together. The hum of machines echoed softly through the ancient hallway as Riven stood in silence. Rows of cryopods stretched into the dark, each holding a sleeping human. Each face behind the glass was peaceful, frozen in time. Some looked young, others old, but all of them were part of a forgotten past. Zura stepped quietly beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked at the names on the pod, strange, human names that meant nothing to her. But to Riven, they meant everything. This wasn't just an archive. This was a lifeboat from a dying civilization. The voice from the pedestal returned. Terran Archive integrity, 72%. Estimated survivors in cryo, 184. Systems damaged. Power minimal. Reboot not possible without full core access. Riven sighed. They're alive, but we can't wake them yet. Zura touched the glass of one pod. This is your family, she said softly. Riven nodded slowly. In a way, yes. They're the last of my kind. Just like me, Zura turned to him, serious. Then we must protect them. They explored deeper into the facility, searching for answers. In a side chamber, they found an old command center, with working terminals covered in dust. Riven wiped one clean and tapped the controls. A recording played on the main screen, grainy and cracked with static. A human commander appeared, his uniform torn, face dirty but proud. He looked straight into the camera. This message is for any Terran who finds this. We failed. Our empire stretched too far. Too fast. We made allies, yes, but also enemies. We uplifted primitive species, gave them fire, gave them language, gave them the stars. But we didn't see the fear grow in their hearts. The screen flickered, but the message continued. The collapse came slowly, then all at once. Revolts on the outer colonies. Betrayals from within. We built this archive as a last hope, a seed for the future. If you awaken here, remember who we were, but don't make the same mistakes. The screen went dark. Riven stared in silence, the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. Zura sat nearby, listening carefully. I never knew, she whispered. I was taught that humans were destroyers, not saviors. Riven turned to her. We were both, he said, builders and breakers. She looked at the floor, thinking deeply. My people feared your return, she said, because they feared change. But this is more than change. It's truth, Riven replied. And it's time someone brought it back. Suddenly, the baselights flickered. A warning siren began to wail, slow and low. Unauthorized access detected. Multiple life forms. Approaching. Warning. Temple breach detected. Zura jumped to her feet. They found us again. The council must have tracked the transport jump. Riven checked the crystal. Still glowing faintly in his hand. We can't fight them here. Not with the pod so close. If the power core is damaged, they'll all die. Zura nodded. There's a secondary control chamber deeper in the mountain, she said. I saw it on one of the temple maps. We can reroute power and activate the shields. They moved fast, ducking through service tunnels. Deeper into the earth, as they ran, the walls changed, less ancient stone, more smooth metal, Terran tech. The facility had layers human history buried beneath alien myths soon. They reached the secondary core, a circular room with a single glowing column in the center. Pipes ran from the floor to the ceiling like veins, and soft blue light pulsed from the reactor core. Zura moved to the control panel, typing quickly. Riven watched the door, weapon drawn, just in case. Rerouting main power, Zura said. Just a few more seconds. Then the floor shook, explosions above, the sound of heavy boots, shouting voices, weapons charging. A blast door slammed down behind them, sealing them inside. Buy us time, Zura whispered, her fingers dancing over the controls. Suddenly, the voice of the elder echoed through a speaker. You have broken our laws, girl. And you, human. You bring war with your words. Surrender the knowledge or be buried with it. Riven shouted back. This knowledge belongs to the galaxy now. You can't silence the truth forever. The elder's voice turned cold. Then die with your ancestors. But in that moment, the core glowed brighter. Zura hit the final command. Shield network activated. Main systems restored. Archive protection online. A deep hum filled the mountain, and blue light surged through the facility. The pods were now protected. No weapon could touch them. The truth was safe. Riven turned to Zura, breathing hard. You saved them, he said. Zura smiled, exhausted but proud. No, she said. We did. Outside, the council forces retreated, confused and afraid of the ancient technology now awake again. They had seen the past rise, and they didn't know how to fight it. Deep underground, among sleeping humans and ancient machines, Riven and Zura stood together. Two voices from two worlds, now bound by the same truth. The great collapse had buried the past, but now something new was rising. The mountain was quiet now. No more shouting, no more explosions. The council's soldiers had pulled back, unsure and afraid of what they had seen. Deep beneath the surface, Riven and Zura stood inside the hidden control room, the glowing crystal still warm in Riven's hand. The power had returned. The archive was safe, at least for now, but something still pulsed beneath their feet. Like a heartbeat that had just started again. It wasn't just the cryopods. It was something older, deeper, waiting to be fully awakened. Zura looked at the glowing column in the center of the chamber. Do you feel that? She asked. Riven nodded. It's like the vault itself is waking up. They followed a new light down a narrow passage, deeper than either had gone before. The tunnel was smooth, clean, untouched by time. Soon they came to a massive sealed door, round, metallic, covered in Terran symbols. It pulsed with a soft blue light, as if recognizing Riven's presence. On the center of the door were the words, Vault Core, authorized Terran entry only. Riven stepped forward, and a scan beam passed over him. A soft chime echoed. Then the door began to unlock. With a slow rumble, it slid open, revealing a dark chamber filled with soft white mist. Inside, glowing structures floated in the air. Data, crystals, hardlight servers, and strange machines far more advanced than anything left on Earth. Zura whispered, "This isn't just a vault. This is a memory, a brain, maybe even a soul." They stepped inside, and a voice spoke from all around them, calm, clear, and very human. Terran Legacy System online. Welcome, Captain Riven Hale. Please confirm activation of Project Echo. Riven looked at Zura, unsure. What's Project Echo? The system answered, a final attempt to preserve Terran civilization. Encoded DNA, history, language, culture. Seated into vaults across the galaxy. This vault is the last and incomplete. Zura took a step closer to one of the floating crystals. Inside it, she could see moving images, cities, ships, faces and stars, all human, all lost, now flickering like ghosts in glass. Riven took a deep breath. I confirm, he said. Activate Project Echo. The chamber lit up like a rising sun. Streams of data flowed through the air, forming a map of the galaxy. Points of light glowed, other vaults, long gone or still waiting. But here, this vault would become the heart of something new. The system continued. To restore the Terran legacy, a voice must speak the first words. The words of memory. A holographic panel opened in front of Riven. With a sentence written in Old Terran Standard, Riven read it aloud. We were many. Now we are few. But from silence, we rise again. The vault responded. Brighter and stronger now. Confirmed. Legacy reinitialized. Humanity's light restored. Zura stared at him, eyes wide. You just brought your people back, she said. Riven shook his head. Not yet, he said, but we started something. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the vault. The council wasn't done. The elder's voice came again, this time desperate, full of fear. You do not understand what you've awakened. You bring the old world back. You bring the war. Zura stepped forward, facing the panel. No, she said firmly. You brought the fear. He brought the truth. The elder didn't reply. But the silence told Riven what he needed to know. The council would not stop. They feared what the vault meant, the return of human strength, human ideas, human unity, but it was too late now. The vault had already begun transmitting signals, reaching out into space, not just to machines, but to minds, messages in every known language, including the Terran one. The truth has awakened. We are still here. Come home. Above the surface, strange things began to happen. Old ruins lit up. Temples began to hum, and forgotten satellites powered back on. Throughout the sector, species that once fought beside or against humans began to hear the signal. Some were afraid, some were curious, some remembered the old alliance. The promises made, and the future lost. Back inside the vault, Zura looked at the rising lights around them. This world will change, she said. My people may resist, but they will listen, because the truth speaks louder than fear. Riven turned to her with a quiet smile. You were never my enemy, he said. You were my voice. When I had none, she placed her hand over his. And you were our key, she said, to a past we forgot, and a future we can still build. As the vault settled into a steady hum, and the systems worked to restore what had been lost, Riven stood at the center of a legacy long buried. The last human no longer stood alone. He had Zura, he had the vault, and he had a galaxy that was finally listening again. And somewhere, deep in space, someone else was hearing the signal, someone who once called Earth home. The vault was no longer silent. Its walls pulsed with soft light, its systems alive for the first time in thousands of years. Across the chamber, holograms of Terran history glowed like floating memories. Faces of explorers, leaders, poets, and warriors filled the air, not as rulers of the galaxy, but as teachers, dreamers, and builders. Riven stood in the center of it all, eyes wide, heart full. He wasn't just a lone human anymore. He was a voice for those who came before, and those who might come after. Beside him stood Zura, her hand still on the control panel. She had chosen truth over fear, history over silence, and now, both their worlds were about to change forever. The vault had begun broadcasting, not just to nearby systems, but far across the stars, into the deep dark where old ships drifted, into planets where old Terran beacons still flickered weakly, waiting to be heard. Messages were sent in every known language, but one language, long dead and feared, was at the heart of it all. Terran Standard, the language of humans, a language that had once united worlds and had now returned to do so again. Far above the planet's surface, the council watched from their great sky fortress. The elders stood in silence, their faces pale, eyes locked on the vault's glowing energy rising from the mountain below. They could no longer stop it. The truth had escaped, and their grip on fear was weakening. One elder stepped forward, looking at the signal logs. "There are responses," he whispered. "Ships are moving. Old allies, even old enemies." Another elder, older and wiser, closed his eyes slowly. "We buried the past," he said, "but the stars remember." Back in the vault, the systems began projecting a wide-range hologram across the chamber walls, one by one. Responses came in, not just from humans, but from dozens of alien species. A feline-like warrior queen, her eyes filled with tears, whispered in her tongue, "The Terrans, they are alive." A sentient tree being, old and wise, moved its branches in the sign of peace. "We remember your kindness," it said. "We will come." Even from the old enemy worlds, those that once fought against humanity, came cautious words. "We feared you. But perhaps we were wrong." Zura watched it all, stunned. "So many voices," she said softly. "They've been waiting for this," Riven nodded. "Not just waiting," he said. "Hoping." The vault's AI spoke again. "Calm and clear, project. Echo complete. Legacy reconnected. Awaiting guidance. Will Terran civilization rise again?" Riven stood silent for a moment. Then he stepped forward and spoke, not just to the vault, but to the galaxy now listening. "We will not rebuild the old empire," he said. "We will not conquer or command. We will remember. We will share. We will unite." He looked at Zura, then added, "We will speak the language of the stars." The vault responded not with words, but with light. A column of blue energy shot skyward, visible from orbit. The symbol of Terran hope now burned in the sky for all to see. In the days that followed, the galaxy began to stir. Ships arrived above the Forbidden's planet, not to invade, but to learn. Representatives from many worlds came to speak with Riven and Zura. Some knelt, others wept, some just stood in silence, overwhelmed by the return of a voice they thought lost forever. Zura became a bridge between her people and the galaxy. The council had no choice but to step down, their fear exposed, their lies broken. The people of Nerith celebrated her as a truth-bearer, a speaker of the dead language, now reborn. Riven walked among them, not as a leader, but as a spark, a reminder that even in silence, history speaks, and when it speaks, the stars listen. One evening, Zura and Riven stood on the mountain above the vault, watching ships move like stars across the sky. Zura asked softly, "Do you think more humans will come? From the other vaults? From somewhere out there?" Riven smiled gently. "I know they will," he said, "because now they know they're not alone." She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Then let them hear us. Let them hear the language." Riven took a breath, then began to speak. In Terran Standard, slowly, clearly, with Zura repeating each word after him. "We are the memory. We are the spark. We are not forgotten. We are the voice of the stars." Their words echoed across the mountain, carried by the HFY vault's energy, and far away, in deep space, someone listened, someone smiled, someone answered, the end, but also the beginning.